You are working two jobs. One pays you, the other one is protecting your image, managing what people think, winning arguments, comparing, performing. That second job has no salary, no holidays, and you have been working it since you were a child. This audiobook is your resignation letter. Across 20 chapters, we do three things. First, we look at the mask, where it came from, the voice it speaks in, the validation it feeds on. Second, we count the cost, the exhaustion, the ruined relationships, the criticism you cannot take, the years spent being right instead of being free. And third, we spit it out, through small, practical acts, being nobody on purpose, losing arguments deliberately, doing things badly in public, letting people be wrong about you. By the end, you will meet the person who was underneath the whole time, patient, whole, waiting, get comfortable. Tonight, you resign. Chapter 1. The face you made for others. Begin with a memory. You are young, small, you do something naturally. You laugh too loud, you cry openly, you say exactly what you think. You dance without checking the room, and someone reacts. A frown, a laugh at you, not with you. A sharp word, a look of disappointment, or simply attention withdrawn, like warmth leaving a room. And in that moment, something ancient happens inside a small human being. You learn that being yourself has a price, and that being someone else has a reward. So you begin editing, a little at first. You laugh more quietly. You hide the tears. You keep certain thoughts inside. You perform the version that gets the smile, the approval, the safety. This is not weakness. Understand that clearly. This is intelligence. A child depends completely on the approval of the big people. Approval means care. Care means survival. The child who learns to shape itself to the room is doing brilliant work. The problem is not that you built a mask. Every human builds one. The problem is what happened next. You forgot you were wearing it. Years passed. The mask got better, more detailed, more convincing. It learned what impresses teachers, then what impresses friends, then bosses, then strangers on the internet. It collected phrases that make you sound smart, opinions that make you sound acceptable, tastes that make you sound interesting, achievements that make you sound valuable. And somewhere in your 20s or 30s, a quiet tragedy completed itself. The performance became so constant that you lost track of the performer. Ask yourself honestly, when you express an opinion, is it yours, or is it the opinion your group expects? When you want something, do you want it, or do you want to be seen having it? When you laugh at the joke, is it funny, or is laughing simply what this room requires? Most people cannot answer quickly. That is not a failure, that is the discovery. The line between the face and the mask has grown blurry, and a blurry line is exactly where the false ego likes to live. Here is a simple test that will return throughout this book. Notice what exhausts you. Being yourself is not tiring. It may be difficult sometimes. It may be costly sometimes. But it is not tiring in that particular gray way. Performing is tiring. If you come home from social situations drained, if you feel relief when plans are cancelled, if being around certain people feels like a shift at a second job, that is not because you are broken. That is the weight of the mask. You have been holding your face in a shape all day. Muscles get tired. So do souls. Now, the false ego will already be objecting. It will say, but people need masks. Society requires politeness. You cannot just be raw everywhere. True, partially. There is a difference between courtesy and performance. Courtesy is choosing kindness. Performance is begging for a verdict. Courtesy costs a little. Performance costs everything. You can be polite without abandoning yourself. You can be professional without disappearing. You can adapt to a room without asking the room to tell you who you are. The mask says, Tell me I am acceptable. The face says, here I am. The work of this book is learning the difference in your own body, where the mask feels like gripping and the face feels like standing. For now, only one assignment. Today or tomorrow, catch one moment of editing. One moment where you were about to say something true and swapped it for something acceptable. One moment where you performed enthusiasm you did not feel. One moment where you hid a joy because it seemed uncool. Do not fix it yet, just see it. The mask has ruled for decades precisely because it worked in the dark. Turn on the light, that is chapter 1. Because once you see the mask, a question follows immediately. Who built it? Chapter 2. Where the mask came from. Nobody is born with a false ego. Watch a baby. A baby has needs, hunger, warmth, comfort. But a baby has no image. A baby does not wonder how the crying looks. A baby has never once performed. The false ego is manufactured later, and it is worth knowing the factory. The first machine is conditional approval. Somewhere early, you noticed that love had weather. Sunny when you achieved, cloudy when you failed, warm when you were easy, cold when you were difficult. Maybe it was blatant. Why can't you be like your brother? You embarrassed me. Look how clever you are. That's my child. Maybe it was subtle. A father who only came alive when you won. A mother whose mood you learned to read like weather. A house where certain feelings were simply not received. Either way, the lesson landed. You are loved for something, not as something. And a child who learns that love is conditional does the only logical thing. It studies the conditions. It becomes an expert in the conditions. It builds a self out of the conditions. That construction is the false ego's foundation. The second machine is comparison. School lines children up by grades, by speed, by looks, by popularity. You learned your rank early, and you learned that rank could change, rise, and warmth increased, fall, and warmth cooled. So a scoreboard was installed in your chest, and it never turned off. It is running right now, comparing your body to bodies, your money to money, your life to highlight reels. The scoreboard was installed by others, but notice who maintains it now. The third machine is wounds. Every mask is shaped around a specific pain. The child called stupid becomes the adult who must always be the smartest in the room. The child who felt invisible becomes the adult who cannot stop performing. The child who felt poor becomes the adult who wears wealth like armor. The child who was mocked becomes the adult who mocks first. The child who felt out of control becomes the adult who controls everyone. Look at any inflated ego closely. You will find a deflated child. The arrogance is not confidence, it is a bandage, wrapped so tightly and so long ago that the person forgot there is a wound underneath. This matters for one enormous reason. You cannot hate the mask off. People try. They catch their own vanity, their own defensiveness, their own posing, and they attack themselves for it. I'm so fake. I'm pathetic. But the mask was built by a child protecting itself. Attacking the mask is attacking the child, and attacked children grip their shields tighter. The way out is not contempt, it is comprehension. When you catch the false ego performing, the useful response is not, I hate this about me. It is, there it is, the old protection, built long ago, by someone small, doing their best. That sentence does something contempt never does. It relaxes the grip, because here is the strange mechanics of it. The mask stays welded to your face only as long as it believes it is still needed. It was needed then, in that house, in that classroom, in that lonely year, but the conditions have changed. You are not 8. Your survival no longer depends on any single person's approval. The judges who shaped you have retired, moved on, grown old, or were never paying the attention you imagined. The mask is defending a fortress whose war ended decades ago. Somebody has to tell it. That is your job now, gently, repeatedly. Not, I hate you, but thank you, and it's over. I can take it from here. You will have to say it more than once. The mask has decades of seniority. It will not resign after one conversation, but every time you catch it, understand it, and set it down for even a moment, something underneath gets a breath of air, something that has been waiting. Before we can free that something, though, we must deal with the mask's greatest trick. It talks, all day, in your own voice, and it has convinced you that its voice is you. Chapter 3. The voice that calls itself you. There is a voice in your head. It is speaking right now, possibly saying, "What voice?" That one. It narrates your life all day. It comments on everyone you pass. It replays this morning's conversation. It rehearses tomorrow's argument. It judges. It compares. It worries. It never, ever stops for long. And it has pulled off the greatest identity theft in history. It has convinced you that it is you. Consider something strange. You can listen to the voice. You can notice the voice. You can disagree with the voice. But if you can observe it, then who is doing the observing? Something in you hears the thoughts, which means something in you is not the thoughts. Sit with that for a moment. It is one of the oldest discoveries in human history. Monks found it in caves. Philosophers found it in gardens, and you can find it on a Tuesday, stuck in traffic. The voice is not the self. The voice is a machine the self carries. A useful machine sometimes. It plans. It solves. It remembers where you parked, but left unwatched. The machine gets colonized, and the thing that colonizes it is the false ego. Listen to your inner voice honestly for one day and notice its favorite subjects, how you rank, how you looked, what they think of you, what you should have said, who was wrong, who owes you, what you deserve, why you are behind, why you are better, why you are worse. Me, me, me. Not the deep me, the image me, the scoreboard me. The voice is the false ego's radio station, broadcasting all day, and you have been mistaking the broadcast for the listener. Here is why this matters practically. Every thought the voice speaks, you have been treating as news. The voice says, "Everyone noticed your mistake." You receive it as fact. Your chest tightens as if it were fact. The voice says, "You are falling behind." Fact. Anxiety follows. The voice says, "He disrespected you." Fact. Anger arrives with its luggage, but the voice is not a news channel. It is an opinion channel, run by a frightened image manager, with a decades-long record of exaggeration. Think of its track record honestly. How many catastrophes did it predict that never came? How many people did it accuse of judging you who were not thinking about you at all? How many nights did it keep you awake for nothing? If a friend had this record of accuracy, you would stop taking their calls. Yet the voice calls 1,000 times a day, and you answer every time. The practice, then, is not to silence the voice. You cannot. People ruin years trying to think their way to no thoughts. The practice is to change your relationship to it, from believer to observer. When the voice says, "You looked stupid," the old way was to become the thought, shrink, replay, suffer. The new way is one small step back. There is a thought that says, "I looked stupid." Feel the difference in those sentences. The first is drowning. The second is standing on the bank, watching the river. Same water, different position. You can practice this anywhere. A thought of envy appears. There is envy. A thought of superiority appears. There is the scoreboard again. A rehearsal of an argument begins. There is the lawyer, preparing a case no court will ever hear. Naming creates distance. Distance creates choice. And choice is exactly what the false ego cannot survive. Because the false ego's entire power is automation. It thinks you, it reacts you, it speaks before you arrive. The moment a gap opens between the thought and the believing, the automation breaks. Not forever, for a second, but seconds are how this entire book works. Seconds of seeing, collected daily, compounding like interest. One more thing about the voice. You will notice, as you observe it, that it is rarely happy. It gets what it wants and moves the target. It wins and immediately fears losing. It is praised and immediately doubts the praise. This is not a malfunction, this is its design. Which brings us to the next chapter. Because the false ego has an appetite, and you have been cooking for it your whole life. Chapter 4. The Hungry Ghost. Old Buddhist paintings show a creature worth knowing, a ghost with an enormous belly, and a throat as thin as a needle. It is called the hungry ghost. It can never eat enough to fill itself, not because food is scarce, because its own design makes satisfaction impossible. You do not need to be a Buddhist to recognize this creature. You feed one every day. The false ego is a hungry ghost, and its food is validation. Watch how the feeding works. You post something, the likes arrive, a small warm pulse. Then, minutes later, nothing. The warmth is gone. The ghost is hungry again. Check again, refresh. You get the compliment, warm pulse, gone by evening. You get the raise, warm for a week. Then the new salary becomes normal, and the ghost points at someone earning more. You buy the thing, the car, the phone, the watch, warm for days. Then it is just your car, just your phone, and the ghost is already reading reviews of the next one. This is the pattern that runs underneath so much of modern life. Chase, consume, brief warmth, emptiness, chase again. And here is the crucial understanding. The problem is not that you have failed to catch enough. The problem is the throat. Validation cannot fill a human being. It was never designed to. It passes through the needle-thin throat of the image, and the image cannot digest anything real, because compliments land on the mask. Likes land on the mask. Status lands on the mask, and you are not the mask. This is why people can be famous and empty, rich and starving, admired by millions and unable to sleep. They are pouring oceans down a needle. You have felt a small version of this yourself. Someone praises the exact thing you performed, the polished version, the curated self, and the praise feels strangely hollow, almost lonely. Of course it does. They complimented the costume. The person inside remains unseen, unfed. Now contrast that with a different memory. A moment when someone saw you, the unperformed you, maybe at your worst, and stayed. Remember how that felt. Not a pulse, a meal. That is the difference between validation and connection. Validation feeds the ghost. Connection feeds the person. The tragedy of the false ego is that it blocks the very nourishment you need. It keeps the performance running precisely so that no one can see the real you, which guarantees the real you is never fed, which increases the hunger, which intensifies the performance. The ghost creates the famine it complains about. So how do you starve a hungry ghost? Not by fleeing to a cave, not by deleting every account and declaring war on attention. Extreme renunciation is often just the ego in a new costume. Look how above it all I am. You starve the ghost with small, deliberate acts of non-feeding. Do something good and tell no one, not one person. Watch the itch that follows, the desperate urge to report it. That itch is the ghost banging its bowl. Let it bang. Take the photo and do not post it. Enjoy the meal without evidence. Let a beautiful day exist without an audience. Win quietly. Let someone else have the credit once and observe what actually happens to your life. Nothing. Nothing happens. The sun rises anyway. Each act of non-feeding teaches your nervous system a revolutionary lesson. You survived without the pulse. The warmth you actually need was never coming from there. And slowly, the appetite changes. Not overnight. The ghost has been fed for decades. It will scream for a while. But ghosts, unfed, grow quiet. And in the quiet, you begin to taste things again. Real things. The meal itself, not the photo of it. The walk itself, not the step count. The work itself, not the announcement. There is an old saying worth keeping in your pocket. Full is the man who needs no witness. We are going to become that man, that woman, slowly. But first we must dismantle the ghost's favorite measuring tool, the one in your chest, running right now, the comparison machine. Chapter 5. The comparison machine. Somewhere in your chest is a machine that never sleeps. It measures. That is all it does. You walk into a room and it scans. Who earns more? Who looks better? Who seems happier? Who is ahead? You open your phone and it feasts. Their vacation against your Tuesday. Their promotion against your stuck year. Their marriage against your loneliness. Their body against your mirror. The machine produces only two outputs. Superiority. A small, oily satisfaction. At least I'm doing better than him. Or inferiority. A cold sinking. I am behind. I am less. And here is what almost nobody notices. Both outputs are poison. Inferiority is obvious poison. It breeds envy, shame, despair. But superiority is poison too. Sneakier, because it feels like winning. Feel what superiority actually does to you. It makes you dependent on other people staying below you. It turns every relationship into a ranking. It makes other people's success feel like your injury. A man who feels tall only when others kneel has outsourced his height. The comparison machine has one more cruel feature. It compares your inside to their outside. You know your fears, your mess, your 3 a.m. doubts. You see their filtered photos, their announcements, their confident posture, your full documentary against their trailer. Of course you lose. Everyone loses that comparison, including the people you compare yourself to. They are losing it against you. Right now, someone is scrolling past your life and sinking. Your job looks stable to them. Your relationship looks warm. Your discipline looks impressive. They cannot see your inside. You cannot see theirs. The whole game is played blindfolded. So why does the machine run at all? Because the false ego cannot know itself directly. It has no substance of its own. It exists only relationally. Better than, worse than, ahead of, behind. Turn off comparison and the false ego goes blind. It literally cannot find itself. Which is exactly why the masters of every tradition attacked comparison first. But attack it how? You cannot simply command the machine to stop. It is ancient. It kept your ancestors alive in small tribes, where rank meant food. You can, however, do 3 things. First, starve its data supply. The machine can only measure what you show it. An hour of scrolling is an hour of feeding it other people's trailers. Reduce the feed and the machine quiets, not because you became enlightened, because you stopped delivering ammunition. Second, change the axis. The machine compares horizontally, you against others. That axis is unwinnable. There will always be someone richer, stronger, younger, further. There is another axis, vertical. You against yesterday's you. Did you keep the promise you broke last month? Are you slightly more honest than last year? Is your temper slightly slower? Is your work slightly better? This comparison is actually useful. It has a fair opponent. It produces information instead of poison. You cannot control being behind him. You can control being ahead of yesterday. Third, practice the strangest medicine of all. When envy strikes, bless the person, not out loud, not performatively, silently, deliberately. Good for her. May he succeed even more. The first times will feel absurd, like swallowing glass. That resistance is the exact size of your false ego. You are measuring it. But something shifts with repetition. Envy and blessing cannot occupy the same moment. Choose the blessing often enough, and the machine begins to rust, and underneath the rust, you rediscover something the machine had buried. Other people's light was never your darkness. There is enough sky. There was always enough sky. But knowing this privately is one thing. The false ego has a public department too, an entire office dedicated to managing how you appear. Let's visit it. Chapter 6. The Image Manager. Inside you works a tireless employee. Call him the Image Manager. He never takes a day off. His job is simple: control what they see. He chooses your clothes with the audience in mind. He edits your sentences before they leave your mouth. He curates your photos. He rehearses your stories, polishing the details that flatter you. He monitors your reputation like a stock price. You have been paying his salary and energy for decades. Watch him at work today. You retell a story and notice yourself adjusting it. Slightly funnier, slightly braver. The other person slightly more wrong. That is him. You feel the pull to mention your achievement casually, to let the impressive fact slip out sideways. Oh, that reminds me of when him again. You are about to admit you have not read the book everyone is discussing, and instead you nod vaguely. Yeah, powerful stuff. Him. None of this makes you a fraud. It makes you human. Everyone employs an image manager. The question is only how much of your life he runs, because in the modern world, his department has exploded. There was a time when image management ended at your front door. Home was backstage. Now the stage is in your pocket. The performance can run 24 hours. Breakfast can be content. Grief can be content. Your child's face can be content. And a life fully managed becomes a life fully performed, which becomes, in the end, a life unlived. Here is the image manager's darkest secret. He does not actually protect you. He protects the image, and he will sacrifice you for it without hesitation. He will keep you in the impressive career that is hollowing you out, because leaving would look like failure. He will stop you from asking the question in the meeting, because asking would look ignorant, so you stay ignorant. He will prevent the apology that could heal your marriage, because apologizing would look weak, so the marriage weakens instead. He will not let you try the new thing in public, because beginners look clumsy, so you remain forever unclumsy, and forever a non-beginner at everything you secretly want. Count the cost honestly. The image manager has vetoed friendships, adventures, careers, confessions, questions, dances, and entire versions of your life. His salary is not just energy, it is possibility. So how do you demote him? Not by firing him completely. Some image management is simple social grace. Wear the suit to the funeral. Do not tell the client everything you think. You demote him with small acts of voluntary transparency. Say, "I don't know," once today, in a room where you would normally fake it. Feel the manager panic. Then feel what actually happens. Usually respect. Occasionally nothing. Never the catastrophe he predicted. Tell a story where you were the fool, not fishing for reassurance, just true. Watch people lean in. Watch them relax. Because your unmanaged moment gives them permission to unmanage. Let someone see the messy house, the unedited draft, the real answer to "How are you?" at least with one safe person. Each act teaches the same lesson. The image was heavier than the truth, and people, it turns out, do not bond with images. They admire images. They bond with humans. Every crack you allow in the performance is a place where someone can finally touch you. The image manager will warn you constantly. They'll lose respect. They'll use it against you. Keep the walls up. But notice who he is really protecting, not you, his job. Because a person at ease in their own skin has no need for a full-time image manager, and he knows it. Demote him slowly. Give him weekends off, then evenings. You will know it is working by a strange new sensation in social situations. Lightness, the lightness of having nothing to hold up. But do not celebrate yet. The false ego has another department, smaller, angrier, and it activates the moment anyone touches the image, the department of offense. Chapter 7. Offense is the ego's food. Think of the last time you were offended. Not hurt, offended. There is a difference we will get to. Someone's comment, someone's tone, someone not replying, someone's joke that landed on you, a stranger's rudeness in traffic, a colleague taking credit. Remember the heat of it, the speech you composed afterward, the hours it occupied, maybe the days. Now ask a strange question. Who exactly was injured? Your body was not touched. Your bank account did not change. Your children remained fed. What was injured was an image, the invisible portrait of yourself that you carry and require the world to respect. The false ego lives in that portrait, and every offense is the portrait getting scratched. Here is the uncomfortable arithmetic. The size of your reaction reveals the size of your ego, not the size of the insult. A secure person hears the same comment and shrugs. Same words, different portrait, smaller target. The Stoics knew a version of this 2,000 years ago. An insult, they observed, is a gift you must accept for it to harm you. Refuse delivery, and the sender keeps the package. Easy to say, harder to live. Because the acceptance happens automatically before you arrive. Someone speaks. The ego receives. The heat rises. You show up last, already burning. So the work is not to never feel the flash. The flash is wiring. The work is what happens in the 3 seconds after. In those 3 seconds, the false ego offers you a meal. Because offense is not just an injury to the ego, it is food. Watch what being offended gives you. Instant moral elevation. You become the wronged one, the good one, standing on a small stage of righteousness, instant importance. Their behavior was about you. You mattered enough to be targeted. Instant occupation, hours of internal courtroom drama, prosecution, testimony, verdict always in your favor. This is why some people are always offended. It is not sensitivity, it is diet. The offended self feels large, central, and justified. 3 of the ego's favorite flavors. Now for the difference between offense and hurt. Hurt is real. Betrayal hurts. Cruelty hurts. Loss hurts. Hurt deserves care, boundaries, sometimes distance, sometimes confrontation. Offense is the ego's theatrical cousin. It is the portrait demanding an apology, a useful test. Hurt says, that damaged something real, and I need to address it. Offense says, how dare they see me that way? Hurt moves toward repair. Offense moves toward rehearsal. The 3-second practice then. The flash comes. Before the courtroom convenes, ask one question. What exactly is bleeding? Look for the wound. If you find something real, a trust broken, a line crossed, address it like an adult, calmly, directly, once. But most of the time, you will search and find only the portrait, scratched again. And you can say the sentence that starves the whole department. That was about their day, not my worth, because it usually was. The rude stranger was rude before you arrived. The sharp colleague is sharp at home too. The friend who did not reply is drowning in their own life. You were not the target. You were the scenery. This realization is a demotion the ego hates. It would rather be attacked than irrelevant. Being attacked at least makes it the main character. Let it be irrelevant. Feel how much time returns to you. The hours once spent in imaginary courtrooms become hours again. Yours. There is an old line worth carrying. He who angers you, owns you. Every offense you decline is a repossession. Take your hours back, and with the reclaimed hours, we can now examine what the ego does with its time when it is not defending. It collects. Chapter 8. The Collector. The false ego cannot exist on its own. It has no body, no substance, so it does what any ghost would do. It possesses things. Listen to it speak. My car, my title, my followers, my degree, my neighborhood, my taste, my team, my opinions, my story. Each "my" is a plank in the raft the ego floats on. There is nothing wrong with having things. A car is useful. A title can be earned honestly. A home matters. The disease begins when having becomes being. When the car is not transportation but evidence. When the title is not a role but a spine. When the follower count is not a number but a pulse. You can diagnose the disease with one question. What happens to you when the object is threatened? A man who owns a car gets a scratch repaired. A man who is his car gets a scratch on his soul. A woman who has a job updates her resume when layoffs come. A woman who is her job faces layoffs as an execution. Someone who holds an opinion updates it when better evidence arrives. Someone who is their opinion experiences evidence as violence. This is why retirement kills some men within a few years, not the rest. The amputation. The title was load-bearing. Remove it, and the whole structure that called itself a self collapses. This is why some people cannot leave dying careers, dying relationships, dying versions of themselves. It is not the loss of the thing they fear. It is the loss of the self that was made of the thing. The collector's logic runs deep in our era. You are what you own. You are what you achieve. You are what you post. You are your resume. You are your body. You are your brand. An entire economy depends on you believing it, because a person who is what they buy will keep buying themselves. But run the logic forward and watch it fail. Everything the ego collects is on loan. The body ages. It cannot be helped. The beauty that was your identity will hand you to a stranger in the mirror. The title expires. Someone younger is already learning your job. The money is provably temporary. No exceptions have ever been recorded. The followers migrate. The trends move. The house outlives you or you outlive it. A self built from collections is a self scheduled for demolition. The only unknown is the date. The old teachers put it in one sentence. You never see a trailer behind a hearse. So what is the alternative? Owning nothing? Achieving nothing? Some performance of poverty? No. That is just the collector collecting renunciation. Look at my minimalism. Another shelf. The alternative is a shift of grammar from I am this to I have this for now. Hold the same objects, do the same work, but loosen the weld between them and your worth. A practical exercise. Take the possession or position you are proudest of, the one that appears early when you introduce yourself. Now imagine it gone, genuinely gone. The title removed, the account emptied, the audience vanished. Sit in the imagined loss and ask, what remains? The first answer may be panic. Sit longer, because something does remain. The one imagining. The one who was there before the collection and will be there after. Your kindness or cruelty remains. Your curiosity remains. Your way of treating a waiter remains. Your courage or its absence remains. That remainder is what this whole book is digging toward. The things you cannot lose in a market crash. The things a thief cannot carry. The things that do not expire with a job contract. Character. Attention. Love given. Skills woven into your hands. The person you are in a room where nobody knows your titles. Invest there and you become slowly fireproof. Not because loss stops hurting, but because loss stops erasing. The collector will keep whispering. One more acquisition and you will finally be someone. You can answer now. I was already someone. That was never the shortage. We have now toured the machinery. The mask, its factory, its voice, its hunger, its scoreboard, its manager, its offense department, its collections. Part 2 begins. The bill. Because all of this machinery runs on fuel, and the fuel has been you. Chapter 9. The exhaustion of pretending. Let us talk about a tiredness that sleep does not fix. You know it. You wake after 8 hours, still carrying it. Coffee reaches it briefly. Vacations dent it for a week. Then it returns, grey and familiar. Doctors find nothing. Because the tiredness is not in the body, it is in the performance. Pretending is labor. Every minute of managed image burns fuel, holding the face, monitoring the voice, scanning the room, editing the sentence, comparing, defending, rehearsing, replaying. None of it appears on your schedule. All of it appears on your energy bill. Psychologists have a term for one slice of this: emotional labor. The gap between what you feel and what you display. The waiter smiling through contempt. The employee nodding through disagreement. The friend performing happiness through a breaking heart. The wider the gap, the higher the cost. Now consider that the false ego runs this gap all day, everywhere, with everyone, sometimes even alone. You perform even for yourself. Standing in your own kitchen, holding an expression, narrating your day as if being watched. Of course you are tired. You are running two people on the fuel of one, the original and the exhibit. Here is a diagnostic worth doing. List the people you know, not on paper, just in your mind. Notice which ones tire you and which ones restore you. The restorative ones share a single feature. Around them, the exhibit shuts down. You say the unedited sentence. You sit in the unmanaged posture. You are, in the old beautiful phrase, at home. The tiring ones require the exhibit, full costume, full performance. Now notice the ratio in your life. How many hours in costume? How many at home? For many people the ratio is brutal. 90% exhibition, 10% existence. And then we wonder where the life went, where the energy went, why the weekend disappears into numb recovery. You were not living too much. You were performing too much. Living does not drain like that. Living costs energy the way exercise costs energy. Spent, then restored, then stronger. Performing costs energy the way a leak costs water. Constantly, invisibly, for nothing. The false ego will defend the performance. This is professionalism. This is what adults do. Everyone performs. Some performance is the tax of civilization. Fine. But be honest about the size of your tax. Are you paying a reasonable toll, or has the toll become the whole road? Here is the experiment this chapter asks of you. Choose one low-stakes hour this week: a walk, a meal, an errand, and for that 1 hour, resign. Let the face do what it wants. Walk at your real pace. If someone asks how you are, answer with one true sentence instead of the script. Do not narrate yourself. Do not audit yourself. Do not improve the hour. Just be the animal that you are, doing the errand. Most people feel something startling in that hour. Air. As if a hand they did not know was gripping had let go. That feeling is not new energy arriving. It is old energy no longer being spent. The exhaustion of pretending has one mercy. It ends the moment the pretending ends, not gradually, immediately. The rest of this book will widen that hour. An hour into an evening into a relationship into a life. But there is a wall between here and there, a specific fear that keeps the performance running even when we long to stop. The fear of being seen wrong, of criticism. Let's take the wall down. Chapter 10. Why you can't take criticism. Somebody criticizes your work, not cruelly, just directly. This part doesn't work. And watch what happens inside you. Heat in the face, tightening in the chest, the mind sprinting for defenses, explanations, counterattacks. They don't understand. Who are they to judge? Hours later, you are still chewing it. The 7 kind sentences they also said have evaporated. The one critical sentence has moved in and started decorating. Why? Why does a few seconds of feedback outlast a day of praise? Because the false ego heard something you did not. You heard, this part of the work needs improvement. The ego heard, you are being devalued in public. The portrait is under attack. Defend or die. The false ego cannot distinguish between the work and the self, between the behavior and the being. It welded them together long ago. My essay is me. My decision is me. My cooking is me. So every critique is surgery without anesthesia. Here is the cost of that welding. The person who cannot be corrected cannot improve. Think about it mechanically. Improvement requires information about what is not working. Criticism is that information, often free, often accurate, sometimes gift-wrapped in rudeness, but information all the same. The ego intercepts the delivery and burns it at the door. So the flaw survives, protected by the very defensiveness that claims to protect you. Multiply this across a life. The manager no one dares correct becomes the manager who never grows. The partner who explodes at feedback trains the marriage into silence. The artist who cannot hear critique plateaus forever at almost. Defensiveness is a wall that keeps out medicine. Now, the false ego has a clever backup strategy. If it cannot reject the criticism, it inverts into collapse. You're right. I'm terrible. I always ruin everything. This looks like humility. It is not. Watch the sleight of hand. The conversation was about the work. The collapse makes it about you. Now the critic must comfort you. The feedback is abandoned. The flaw survives again. Defense and collapse are the same maneuver in different costumes. Both change the subject from the work to the portrait. The alternative is a third position. Rare, learnable, the craftsman's position. A craftsman hears, this joint is loose, and walks over to look at the joint, not at his childhood, not at his worth, at the joint, because he is not the table, he is the one who makes tables, and loose joints are simply Tuesday. Notice what this position requires, a small but real separation between you and your output. Your work is something you made, not something you are. It came out of you. So did your breakfast. You are not required to defend either one's honor forever. Practical protocol for the next criticism you receive. First, say nothing for 3 seconds. The ego's defense is fastest in the first moment. Deny it the microphone. Second, ask one question. Can you show me what you mean? This does 2 things. It moves both of you toward the work, and it buys the heat time to cool. Third, find the true percent. Most criticism is not 100% right. Almost none is 0% right. Your job is to find the living percent and take it, even from an enemy, especially from an enemy. Enemies inspect places friends politely ignore. An old desert saying puts it perfectly. Take the pearl, leave the shell. Fourth, thank the person, not performatively, functionally. That's useful. I'll look at it. You are not thanking them for the pleasure. You are training everyone around you that you are safe to tell the truth to. Do you understand what that training is worth? The person whom others can safely correct receives a lifetime supply of free coaching. The person who punishes correction receives a lifetime supply of polite lies. Choose your supply. One more reframe, and it is the deepest one. Every criticism you can hear without dying is proof of something enormous, that you are not the portrait. Each survived critique is evidence. The work was cut, and you kept breathing. The image was scratched, and you remained. Something in you is not scratchable. Criticism taken well is how you meet it. And now we must look at where the false ego does its most expensive damage. Not at work, at home, in love. Chapter 11. The relationships the mask ruins. 2 people meet. They like each other, so naturally they send their representatives. His representative is charming, successful, and has no needs. Her representative is easygoing, confident, and never gets hurt. The representatives date for months. The representatives are a great match. Then, slowly, the actual people start leaking through. His fear, her temper, his neediness, her doubt, and both feel betrayed. You've changed. No, nobody changed. The representatives went home. The people finally arrived. This is the false ego's first crime against love. It sends a stand-in to do the meeting, so the bond forms with someone who does not exist. And the real person, arriving later, is treated as an intruder. The second crime is deeper. Not admired, seen, the mess, the fear, the unfinished parts, the 3 a.m. self. And being seen is precisely what the false ego is built to prevent. Its entire function is image control. Its motto is manage what they perceive, so the ego and intimacy are structural enemies. You cannot fully run both. Every couple discovers this at the same doorway, the doorway of the first real conflict. Conflict is where masks are hardest to hold, and the ego, under threat, reaches for its weapons, being right. Watch a marriage argue about dishes for 45 minutes. The dishes were settled in the first 90 seconds. The remaining 43 minutes are two portraits fighting for the title of correct. Scorekeeping. The ego maintains meticulous accounts. Who apologized last? Who sacrificed more? Who started it in 2019? Love cannot breathe inside an accounting firm. The silent treatment, which is not silence, it is a loud performance of wounded importance. The portrait, refusing to descend from its frame until properly worshipped. And the deadliest weapon, the refusal to say the 4 hardest words in any language. I was wrong. Notice what actually blocks those words. Not facts. The portrait. Saying I was wrong costs the ego a piece of its imagined perfection, so it will spend the marriage's actual happiness to protect its imaginary face. Trading real love for a painted one. There is no worse exchange rate on earth. Now flip everything. Have you ever been with someone or witnessed a couple where the masks were down, where one could say, I'm scared about money, without the other pouncing, where I was wrong yesterday was answered with thank you, not a victory lap, where being ridiculous was safe, where being weak occasionally was allowed for both? That safety has a physics to it. Vulnerability from one side invites vulnerability from the other. Mask lowering is contagious, so is mask raising, which means in every relationship you are always teaching. Every time you defend, you teach defense. Every time you posture, you teach posture. Every time you go first into honesty, you teach that honesty is survivable here. Someone has to go first. The ego says, let them. The ego always says, let them. It can wait forever. It is a portrait. It has time. You do not. So this chapter's practice is called going first. In one safe relationship this week, lower the mask 1 inch before they do. Say the actual feeling instead of the managed one. I'm not annoyed, I'm hurt. Say the 4 words about something small. I was wrong about Tuesday. Ask for something plainly instead of hinting and testing. I need help. Can you sit with me? 1 inch. Then watch. Most of the time, the other person's shoulders drop. An inch answers an inch. And 2 people get to visit, briefly, the only place love actually lives. Underneath the representatives. Fair warning. Some relationships will fail this test. Some people are so armored that your honesty will be used as ammunition. That information is also a gift. It tells you where you are. Better to know you are at a masquerade than to keep mistaking it for a marriage. But most people are not enemies. Most people are exactly as tired of their representative as you are of yours. Waiting, for years sometimes, for someone to go first. Go first. And to do that, you will need to survive something the ego considers fatal: losing. Chapter 12. Being right versus being free. There are two prizes in life. Most people never notice they are different: being right and being free. The false ego pursues the first with religious devotion. It will die on any hill. The argument about the actor's name, the dispute about who said what in March, the political point at the family dinner, the correction of a stranger on the internet at midnight. Watch yourself in an argument sometime. Actually watch. Notice the moment you stop listening, it comes early. The other person is still talking, but you are no longer receiving. You are reloading. Notice the physical state: jaw set, chest forward, voice climbing. Notice, most importantly, what you are defending. Is it truth? Truth rarely needs that much adrenaline. You are defending the portrait of the smart one, the informed one, the one who does not lose. Now count what the victories have actually purchased. Recall an argument you decisively won. The other person went silent, maybe conceded. What did you carry home? A pulse of triumph, gone by morning. A relationship, slightly scorched. A person slightly further away. The ego framed the trophy. You paid for the frame. There is an old saying that ends many marriages and boardrooms: you can be right, or you can be at peace. It is not always true. Some hills matter. Injustice matters. Safety matters. Truth, inconsequential things, matters enormously. But be honest about your hills. Line up the last 20 arguments of your life. How many were consequential? How many were the portrait boxing shadows? The exchange rate is what nobody calculates. Every trivial victory costs something real. Minutes of your finite life, warmth in a relationship, cortisol in your blood, and the deepening of the very habit that imprisons you. Meanwhile, the strangest discovery awaits anyone willing to test it. Losing small arguments on purpose is one of the fastest freedoms available. Try it once this week. Someone insists on a point that is wrong but harmless. The route that was faster. The year the movie came out. The trivia. And instead of the correction, say, "You might be right." Then watch two things. Watch them. Nothing terrible happens. The conversation flows on. The relationship warms slightly. Then watch yourself. The ego will scream for about 4 seconds. It will feel like swallowing a stone. But they're wrong. Let the 4 seconds pass. On the other side of them is a sensation you may not recognize at first. Lightness, freedom. The freedom of a person who no longer has to police the world's accuracy, who no longer runs the Department of Corrections. Understand what you are training with this practice. Not dishonesty. You are not agreeing with falsehood. You might be right is not surrender of truth. It is surrender of the trophy. You are training the separation of two things the ego welded together: your worth and your win rate. The deeper version of this practice belongs to real conflicts. In your next genuine disagreement with someone you love, try a question the ego never asks. What if we're both partly right? The ego experiences arguments as courtrooms, one verdict, one winner, but most human disagreements are two people holding two corners of a truth too large for either. He is right that she withdraws. She is right that he criticizes. Both are right. Both are wounded. The courtroom can run for decades and settle nothing. Or someone can adjourn it. You're partly right. Let me think about that. 10 words. The ego rates them as defeat. Measure the aftermath yourself and re-rate them, because here is the final accounting of this chapter. The need to be right is a cage with a scoreboard inside. You can win in there every day and never once be free. Freedom begins at the door, which is marked with the strangest exit sign ever written. I might be wrong. Walk through it sometime. The air outside is extraordinary, and now the book turns. We have seen the mask. We have counted its bill. Part 3 begins. The spitting out. Chapter 13. Catching the ego in the act. Everything until now has been anatomy. Now comes surgery. And the first tool of surgery is not effort. It is light. Here is the single most important sentence in this book. The false ego operates only in the dark. It requires your non-observation. It thinks as you, speaks as you, reacts as you, precisely because you are not watching. The moment you catch it in the act, something extraordinary happens. It pauses, not forever, for a beat. But in that beat, you exist separately from it. And a self that can watch the ego is by definition not the ego. Every tradition found this: the witness, the observer, the one behind the eyes. You do not need a monastery to develop it. You need a hobby. Make ego spotting your hobby. Not ego fighting. Fighting the ego is the ego's favorite game. It wins both sides. I am so humble now. I am terrible at being humble. Both are the portrait, admiring or flogging itself. Spotting is different. Spotting is a naturalist watching an animal, curious, amused, taking notes. Here is what to watch for. The ego has tells, like a poker player. The tell of the name. Notice the small electricity when your name is mentioned. The way your attention snaps to it in a conversation, a list, a room. There it is. The tell of the story upgrade. Notice the moment in a retelling when the details improve. Your line gets wittier. Their behavior gets worse. Caught. The tell of the credential slip. Watch the urge to mention the achievement, the price, the famous acquaintance, sideways. Feel the pressure of it building in your throat before it comes out. That pressure is the ego, asking for the microphone. The tell of the comparison flick. Someone shares good news. Notice the microsecond flick of your inner eyes toward your own scoreboard before the congratulations arrive. That flick. See it. The tell of the rehearsal. Notice when you are composing your reply while they are still talking. Notice when you are performing a conversation that ended days ago, in the shower, winning it this time. The tell of the offense heat. The flash in the chest when the portrait gets scratched. By now you know that one well. Each spotting gets a silent label. Keep the labels light, almost fond. There's the scoreboard. There's the lawyer. There's the exhibit. There's the hungry ghost banging its bowl. Why fond? Because tone is everything in this work. Harsh observation collapses into the punishment room, and the ego thrives on punishment. It simply switches from playing the hero to playing the wretch. Both are starring roles. Fond observation is different. It is how you watch a child doing something transparent. Ah, I see what you're doing there. The child, seen kindly, relaxes. So does the ego. Now, the practical structure. Do not attempt all-day vigilance. You will manage 40 minutes and quit by Thursday. Instead, set 3 checkpoints. Morning, midday, evening, 1 minute each. At each checkpoint, ask one question. What has the ego been doing since I last checked? Scan the recent hours. Find one tell. Just one. Label it. Done. This tiny practice compounds ferociously because you are not just collecting observations. You are strengthening the observer. Like a muscle, the witness grows with use. And as it grows, the spotting starts happening in real time. First, you catch the ego a day later, then an hour later, then mid-sentence. And then comes the milestone this chapter is aiming at. You catch it before. The boast, noticed in the throat, unsaid. The correction, noticed in the chest, released. The offense, noticed in the flash, declined. In that gap between impulse and action, you will meet something remarkable: choice. The false ego is, above all else, automation. It is you on autopilot, flying decades-old routes. The witness is the hand returning to the controls. One warning, and it is an important one. Sometime in the first weeks of this practice, you will catch the ego being proud of catching the ego. Look how aware I'm becoming. Do not panic. Do not despair. This is normal. It is turtles quite a long way down. Just label it, fondly, like everything else. There's the portrait, painting a halo on itself. And smile. The smile matters. Anything you can smile at has already lost its command over you, which prepares us for the next medicine, a stranger one. The deliberate practice of being nobody. Chapter 14. The art of being nobody. The words sound like a threat. Be nobody. The ego hears annihilation, failure, the bottom of every ranking it lives by. But sit with an odd question. When were you happiest? Actually search, not the achievements, the moments. For most people, the honest answers are strange. Lost in a task, hours vanishing, laughing with old friends until breathing hurt, walking somewhere green, thinking of nothing, watching a child sleep, the sea, music, when it swallowed you. Now notice the common ingredient. In every one of those moments, you were missing, not absent, present, more present than usual. But the self-image was missing. The portrait was missing. Nobody was managing anything. Nobody was ranking anything. Nobody was watching themselves live. You were, in the most precise sense, nobody. And it was the best you ever felt. Hold that fact against everything the ego has told you. The ego insists that becoming somebody is the path to joy. More status, more visibility, more definition, yet your own peak experiences arrive only when the somebody dissolves. The flow state that athletes and artists chase is exactly this. Scientists who study it note the same signature every time. Self-consciousness disappears, the inner audit stops, and performance, creativity, and joy all spike at once. The self-image, it turns out, was never the engine. It was the parking brake. So the art of being nobody is not self-erasure. It is brake release. Here are its practices. They are almost embarrassingly simple. The ego will call them beneath you. That is how you know they are medicine. Practice 1. Do something you are bad at, regularly, with no plan to monetize or master it. Paint badly, sing badly, play chess badly. Not to improve. That is the ego sneaking back in with a development plan. To practice existing without a rank. An activity where you are nobody is a gymnasium for the soul. Practice 2. Be anonymous on purpose. Spend time where nobody knows your titles. Travel where your reputation has never been heard of. Volunteer somewhere your resume is irrelevant and your hands are not. Notice the initial nakedness. Then notice what fills the space. Ease. You have nothing to maintain. The exhibit is closed. The person is open. Practice 3. Give the credit away. Once this month, let praise that belongs to you land on someone else. Say nothing. Watch the ego thrash. Watch your actual life remain completely intact. Practice 4. Take the low seat. The old traditions all taught some version of it. Sit at the humble end of the table. Take the smaller portion. Let the other car merge. Let someone else speak first and last. Not as theater, quietly, as training. Each low seat teaches the nervous system the lesson it has resisted since childhood. Position was never the source of your worth. You keep existing at the humble end of the table, fully. Sometimes more than you existed at the head of it. Now, the honest objections. Won't people walk on me? Being nobody is not being a doormat. Boundaries come from self-respect, which lives deeper than self-image. In fact, watch closely. The portrait people are the easiest to manipulate. Flatter the portrait and they open every door. A nobody cannot be flattered. What exactly would you flatter? Won't I lose my ambition? You will lose one fuel, the frantic fuel of proving, and discover another, the clean fuel of building. Work done to prove exhausts and distorts. Work done to build sustains and improves. The great craftsmen were mostly nobodies to themselves. The work was somebody. That is why it lasted. The deepest version of this practice has no technique at all. Some evening, alone, sit and let all the descriptions fall off. Not the profession, not the family role, not the nationality, not the story, not even the name. Sit as whatever remains. The first feeling is often fear. The second, if you stay, is often peace. An unexplainable at-homeness, as if you had been carrying an enormous costume for decades. And finally, in the dark, set it down. You will pick it up again tomorrow. Life requires some costume. But now you know something that changes everything. You are the one who carries it, not the one it depicts. And a person who knows that can finally survive the thing the ego fears most, other people being wrong about them. Chapter 15. Let them be wrong about you. Somewhere right now, someone has an opinion of you that is inaccurate. Someone thinks you are arrogant because you were shy at one party. Someone thinks you are lazy because they saw one afternoon of your life. Someone thinks you are lucky. Someone thinks you are cold. Someone from years ago still carries a version of you that no longer exists, maybe never existed. And somewhere in your chest lives an urge that has cost you more than you know. The urge to correct the record, to explain, to defend, to make sure everyone holds an accurate portrait of you. The false ego treats your reputation like a museum it curates. Every wrong opinion is a vandalized exhibit, and it wants to work nights repainting. Here is the liberation this chapter offers. Let them be wrong about you, not some of them, whoever needs to be. Consider the mathematics first. Every person who has ever met you runs a private simulation of you, built from fragments, one meeting, one email, one story someone told them, filtered through their wounds, their envy, their mood, their own portrait. There are hundreds of these simulations running. No two match, none match you. Managing them all is not difficult, it is impossible. You have been attempting the impossible and calling the exhaustion normal. Now consider the cost of the attempt. Every explanation of yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, every message drafted and redrafted at midnight, every relationship maintained solely to supervise their opinion, every dream trimmed because of what the neighbors, the relatives, the old classmates might conclude. You have been paying rent on rooms in other people's heads, rooms you will never even get to inspect. Stop paying. Now the necessary honesty. Some reputation matters. If a lie threatens your work, your family, your safety, correct it. Once, clearly, with evidence. But notice how rarely that is what the urge is about. The urge is usually about the sting. Someone, somewhere, holds a lesser version of you, and the portrait cannot bear it. Here is the question that dissolves the sting. Their opinion of you. Where does it live? Not in your body, not in your home, not in your hands or your hours. It lives in their head. It is, in the most literal sense, their experience, part of their inner weather. You are, in their mind, a character they wrote. You do not live there. You have never once lived there. An insult in a language you do not speak is just sound. An opinion you refuse to move into is just weather in someone else's country. The old Stoic put it plainly 2,000 years ago. It amazed him, he said, that we love ourselves more than others, yet value their opinions of us more than our own. Read that twice. It is the whole disease in one sentence. So here is the practice. It has two levels. Level 1, the unanswered inaccuracy. This week, someone will get you slightly wrong, a small mischaracterization, a joke that misses, an assumption, and you will feel the urge rise, the clarification loading. Hold it. Let the moment pass uncorrected. Feel the 4 seconds of ego burn. You know them by now. Then feel what is on the other side. Nothing. Beautiful nothing. The world continuing. You, intact. An entire argument, unfought. An entire evening, unspent. Level 2 is harder and greater. Allow someone to lose respect for you for the right reasons. Decline the invitation and let them think you are boring. Set the boundary and let them think you are difficult. Leave the impressive path and let them think you have failed. Choose the quiet life and let them think you lack ambition. Their disappointment is the exit fee from their expectations. Pay it. People who never pay it live their entire lives inside other people's plans. There is a sentence worth installing for these moments. That's a fair thing to think from where they're standing. It does not make them right. It makes you free. Because here is the final secret about the record you have been trying to correct. There is no record, there is no central file where the true version of you must be registered and defended. There are only billions of flickering simulations, constantly rewritten, mostly forgotten. The only place a true version of you can be maintained is in your own conduct. Live it. Let it speak slowly, over years, to whoever is actually paying attention. The ones who matter will eventually see you. The ones who refuse to were never seeing you anyway. They were watching their own movie. Let them watch it. You have a life to attend, and attending it will require the next practice, the one the image manager fears most of all: doing things badly, in public, on purpose. Chapter 16. Doing things badly in public. Every false ego shares one core policy: never be seen struggling, be seen succeeding, be seen finished, be seen effortless, but never in the middle, never learning, never clumsy, never new. This single policy has quietly amputated more lives than any failure ever has. Count what it has cost you personally. The language you never learned because speaking it badly in front of people was unbearable. The sport never played. The dance floor never entered. The class never attended. The question never asked in the meeting. The business never launched because the first version would be visible, the instrument gathering dust. The story never submitted. None of these were blocked by inability. You could have done all of them, badly, at first, which is the only way anyone has ever done anything. They were blocked by the policy. The portrait must not be seen as a beginner. So here is this chapter's medicine, and it is deliberately outrageous. Regular, voluntary, public clumsiness. Not as self-humiliation, as training, the way an inoculation is a small dose of the disease. You are going to show the middle, on purpose, and discover that the middle is survivable. Start small. Ask the obvious question in the meeting, the one everyone is silently wondering. Say the words the ego hates most. I don't understand. Can you explain that again? Feel the heat, then watch the room. Half of them exhale with relief. Someone whispers thank you afterward. The sky, you will notice, holds. Continue. Go to the class where you will be the worst one, the beginner's class, at your age, with your dignity. Be visibly terrible at it. Miss the steps, mangle the pronunciation, fall off the board. Watch what the other students actually do. Nothing. They are too busy being terrible themselves. The audience, as always, is empty seats. Then the advanced work. Publish the imperfect thing. Post the video with the flaw. Serve the guests the experiment. Show the draft. Sing at the gathering. Each exposure does something no private practice can. Private practice improves the skill. Public clumsiness dissolves the fear. And the fear was always the real prison. Skills were never the shortage. Permission was. Notice, as you practice, a series of discoveries arriving in order. First discovery. The anticipation was 90% of the pain. The imagined watching, the imagined laughter, the actual event is almost always smaller, faster, and warmer than the preview. Second discovery. People like you more. This one shocks everyone. The ego insists that flawlessness attracts. Reality disagrees. Flawlessness intimidates and distances. Visible humanity invites. Psychologists even named it, decades ago, watching competent people spill coffee and become more liked, not less. Your stumble is someone else's permission slip. Rooms relax around a person who is unafraid to be seen learning. Third discovery. This is the deep one. Somewhere around the 10th survived embarrassment, you will notice the stakes changing. Things that would have mortified you in January barely register by June. The portrait is losing density, becoming translucent. You can act through it now. And in its place grows something the ego never provided. Actual confidence. Understand the difference precisely. Ego confidence says, I am certain I will look good. It is brittle. It must control conditions. It avoids all arenas it cannot dominate. Real confidence says, I am certain I will survive looking bad. It is unbreakable. It can enter any arena. It has been tested against the exact thing it feared, and the fear lost. The first confidence is a fortress that shrinks your world to its walls. The second is a passport. One practical program to close the chapter. Choose one thing you have always wanted to do and always avoided because of the beginner phase. You know it already. It surfaced 3 paragraphs ago. This month, do it badly in front of at least one other human being. That is the whole assignment. Not do it well. Do it witnessed. The witness is the medicine. The badness is the proof. Proof that the policy was a lie, that being seen struggling did not end you, that the middle is where all the living was hidden. And once you can be bad in public, you are ready for the strongest ego solvent ever discovered. It is not a practice you do on yourself at all. Chapter 17. Service, the ego's kryptonite. Here is a strange prescription. The fastest way out of your own head is through someone else's need. Every tradition discovered it. The monks scrubbing floors, the elders visiting the sick, the commandment in every language to serve. Modern research keeps rediscovering it with charts. People assigned to help others report more happiness than people assigned to treat themselves. Volunteers live longer. Givers, over time, out-thrive takers. But this chapter is not about being nice. It is about mechanics. The false ego is a lens. Its single function is to bend every ray of attention back toward the self. How do I look? How am I doing? What do they think of me? What will I get? Anxiety, envy, offense, comparison, image management. Every ego symptom in this book is attention, bent inward, overheating. Service physically reverses the lens. You cannot truly attend to someone's need and curate your image in the same moment. The attention will not split. For as long as you are genuinely serving, the portrait is unattended, and unattended it fades. You have felt this without naming it. Remember a day you were drowning in your own problems. Then someone needed you, really needed you. A friend's crisis, a child's fever, a stranger's emergency. And for an hour, your problems vanished. Not solved, vanished. Because the lens had turned. You came back to yourself afterwards strangely refreshed, lighter, as if you had been on vacation. You had been a vacation from the exhibit. That is the mechanism. Now, the warnings, because the ego corrupts everything it can reach, and it would love to run your charity department. Beware performed service. Helping that requires witnesses. Giving that must be posted. Generosity with a camera crew. That is the hungry ghost catering its own banquet. The old instruction stands. Let the left hand not know what the right is doing. Serve at least sometimes in total secrecy. Secret service is the pure dose. Beware superior service, helping that looks down. Rescuing that needs the rescued to stay beneath you. That is the scoreboard wearing a halo. True service meets people at eye level or not at all. Beware martyred service. Giving that keeps invoices. After everything I've done. Service that expects payment in gratitude is not service. It is a loan, and loans breed resentment on both sides. The clean form is simpler than all of these. See a need, fill it, move on. Forget it if you can. The practices, in ascending order, daily invisible. One small anonymous kindness per day. Return the stray cart. Leave the generous tip with no name. Send the encouraging message and delete the thread. Small enough that the ego cannot build a monument on it. Weekly, attentive. Give someone the rarest resource you have. Undivided attention. One conversation a week where you are entirely there. No phone, no rehearsing your reply. No steering the story back to yourself. Just the radical service of full listening. Watch what it does to the other person. Then notice what it did to you. An hour without self is an hour of rest. Monthly, structural. Attach yourself to something ongoing. A person you check on. A place you show up. A responsibility that does not care about your mood, your image, or your week. Obligation, the ego calls it. Anchor is its real name. And in seasons of despair, remember the emergency use. When your own mind becomes unbearable, when the portrait's demands and failures are screaming, do not dig deeper inward. That is often the ego offering you a shovel. Go be useful to someone. Immediately. Small is fine. It is nearly impossible to drown in a self you are currently not occupying. There is an old story of a man who complained to his teacher that he was in agony. My mind torments me day and night. Myself, myself, myself. What should I do? The teacher said, go help your neighbor with his harvest. But what about my suffering? Bring it with you. It is welcome to watch you work. The man worked the harvest. The suffering watched for a while. Then, unattended, it wandered off. Suffering usually does, when the self it feeds on is busy elsewhere. This is not the whole cure for every pain. Some pain needs more, but for the specific ache of an overgrown self, service is the knife. And after the knife, the garden needs one more thing. Quiet. Chapter 18. Silence and the shrinking self. The false ego has a diet we have discussed. Validation, comparison, offense, applause. But it has a deeper requirement, more basic than food, noise, input, stimulation, commentary, content, company, something, anything to react to. Because the ego is not a thing, it is a process, a reaction machine. And a reaction machine with nothing to react to begins, very quietly, to stop existing. The ego knows this. Watch how it proves it. Notice what happens in your first 30 seconds of unplanned stillness. The elevator, the queue, the red light, the gap between tasks. The hand moves toward the phone before any decision was made, before you arrived. That is not boredom. Boredom takes longer than 4 seconds to form. That is the reaction machine, terrified of the gap, reaching for material. We have built a civilization that ensures the gap never comes. Sound in the ears on every walk, screens in every wait, content with every meal, voices until the edge of sleep. An entire species keeping the machine fed around the clock, and wondering why it cannot find itself. You cannot find yourself in noise. The self that appears in noise is the reactive self, the commentator, the portrait. What is underneath only surfaces in quiet, like stars, always there, visible only when the lights go down. So this chapter's medicine is the oldest one in the book. Deliberate silence, in doses. Begin with 10 minutes. Sit somewhere. No phone, no book, no music, no task, just you and the machine. Here is exactly what will happen, so you are not ambushed. Minute 1. Restlessness, an itch for input. The hand twitching toward the absent phone. Minutes 2 through 5. The flood. The machine, denied outside material, starts processing inventory, to-do lists, old arguments, that thing you said in 2016, anxieties, rehearsals, commentary. This is the part where most people quit. I can't meditate. My mind is too loud. Understand, the loudness is not failure. The loudness is the point. You are, many of us for the first time, actually hearing the machine that has been running your life. It was always this loud. You were simply never quiet enough to notice. Stay. Minutes 6 through 10. Sometimes, not always, gaps. Small silences between thoughts, like clearings in a forest. Do not chase them. Chasing is the machine again, now wanting to win at stillness. Just notice. In the clearing, something is present, awake, watching, content in a way that needs nothing. It has no image, no rank, no case to argue. Old friends, meeting again. Practiced daily, the doses can grow. 10 minutes of sitting, a walk with no headphones, a meal with no screen, a drive in silence, eventually, perhaps, a full quiet morning. Some people work up to days, but the length matters less than the regularity. The machine is retrained by rhythm, not heroics. And here is what the retraining does, over months. The reactions slow, not disappear, slow. The insult arrives, and there is a gap before the flare. The urge arrives, and there is a gap before the hand moves. The thought arrives, and there is a gap before the believing. Every gap is a doorway, and you have been installing doorways in a wall that used to be solid. People around you will notice before you do. You seem calmer. You didn't take the bait. You've changed. You have not changed. You have shrunk. The reactive self, unfed, has been losing weight, and through the thinning of it, the original face shows. One more gift of silence must be named, because it frightens people, and it should be welcomed instead. In real quiet, sooner or later, grief arrives. The losses you outran with busyness, the truths you drowned in noise, the tears that never got their hour. They have been waiting in the silence the whole time, patient as furniture. Let them come. This is not the practice failing, this is the practice working. The ego kept you loud partly to keep you from these visitors, but they were never enemies. They were the unfinished parts of you, holding your depth in their hands, waiting for a quiet enough room to return it. Sit with them. The room becomes larger afterward. It always does. And in that larger room, one question remains, the question this entire book has been walking toward. If the mask comes off, if the portrait fades, if the machine goes quiet, who remains? Chapter 19. Who remains when the mask falls? There is a fear underneath every chapter so far. We should honor it now because it is sincere. The fear says, if I drop the image, the achievements, the roles, the performance, the story, what if there is nothing underneath? What if I am the mask? It is the ego's final argument, its hostage note. Remove me and you remove yourself. Let us test it against your own experience, not philosophy, evidence. Return to the moments this book keeps pointing at. The hour lost in work you loved, when the self-image was absent. Were you nothing in that hour? Or were you more present than usual? The night with old friends when all performance stopped. Nothing? Or the most you had felt in months? The silence, chapter 18, when the machine paused. Was the clearing empty, or was something there, awake, watching? Well, the evidence is consistent. Every time the mask slips, you do not disappear. Something surfaces. So what is it? What actually remains? Not another image. That is the crucial point. The ego will immediately try to paint a new portrait, titled The Real Me, and hang it in the old frame. Humble, authentic, deep. Another exhibit. What remains is not a portrait at all. It is more like a set of livings. Awareness remains, the one who watched the thoughts, who noticed the tells, who observed the ego all these chapters. That watcher was never the mask. It was what the mask was hiding. Values remain. Strip away the audience entirely and notice. You still prefer honesty to lies. Kindness still feels different than cruelty in your own chest. Courage still calls you. These were never performances. They perform nothing. They are your actual spine, and it was there beneath the costume all along. Love remains. Not the trading kind the ego runs. The kind that flows toward your people when nobody is measuring. The kind that would run into the fire without consulting the portrait. Curiosity remains. The pull toward what genuinely interests you. Not what should, what does. Follow it, and you find your real tastes buried under decades of acceptable ones. The body remains, breathing, walking, tasting, the animal that was here before the story and carries the story without believing it. And capacity remains. Your hands still know their skills. Your mind still solves. You can still build, plant, cook, repair, create. The ego claimed these as trophies. They were never trophies. They were tools. They work better without the trophy weight. Notice what this remainder amounts to. Not a diminished you, a distilled one. Everything real survived the fire. Only the paint burned. Now the practical question. How do you live from the remainder instead of the mask? Not by declaring victory. The mask does not fall once. It falls 10,000 times. You will wake up wearing it most mornings for a while. That is the design of this work, not the failure of it. You live from the remainder by consulting it. Before decisions, one question, asked in the quiet you have been practicing. If nobody would ever know, which choice would I make? That question roots around the portrait completely. Ask it about the job, the purchase, the argument, the Sunday. The answer that comes back is the remainder speaking. You will not always obey it, but know its voice. It is quieter than the ego, and it does not repeat itself. And in relationships, one compass. Move toward the people around whom the remainder surfaces. You know them now. The ones you leave feeling more like yourself, not less. They were never just pleasant company. They were mirrors of the original face. Keep them close. Be that mirror back. One last thing remains to be said about what remains. It was never in danger. Through every year of performance, every feeding of the ghost, every scratched portrait and lost argument and managed image, it sat underneath, whole, patient, unspent. You are not building a true self in this book. You are excavating one. The treasure was never missing, only buried. Which leaves a single question for our final chapter. What does a life look like, lived from there? A life without applause? Chapter 20. Living without applause. Imagine a day, some years from now. You wake without reaching for the verdict machine. The morning is not content. It is just morning. Coffee, light, breath, witnessed by no one, complete anyway. You work. And the work is the point of the work. You build the thing well because well is how you build things now. Not for the review, not for the announcement. Some of your best efforts these days are entirely unknown to others. This used to feel like waste. Now it feels like wealth. Someone criticizes you before lunch. There is a flash. There is still always a flash. Then the gap you built, doorway by doorway. You look at the criticism the way a craftsman looks at a joint. Take the pearl, leave the shell, continue. Someone else is wrong about you by afternoon. You hear about it secondhand. The old you would have drafted the correction for hours. You feel the urge rise, label it fondly, and let the person be wrong. They are allowed. It is their movie. You lose an argument at dinner, on purpose mostly. It was not a hill. You might be right, you say. And the strange lightness comes, reliable as ever. Your spouse looks at you the way people look at safe harbors. You help someone in the evening. Nobody finds out. The ghost bangs its bowl briefly. You let it bang. It is so much quieter than it used to be. Some days you almost miss it. Not really. And at night, silence. 10 minutes or 30. The machine murmurs and slows. In the clearing, the old companion, awake, watching. Well, that is the whole day. Notice what it does not contain. No applause, no audience, no verdict, no ranking. And notice what it is not. It is not small. It is not grey. It is not renunciation, poverty, or hiding. You may be more ambitious than ever in this life, building larger things, loving louder, taking bigger risks, beginners' risks even, in public, badly, laughing. Because ambition without ego is not weaker, it is cleaner, it burns without smoke. The work gets your full attention, since none is siphoned to the exhibit. The relationships get your real face, since the representative retired. The risks get taken, since looking foolish stopped being fatal years ago. The energy, all of it, comes home. This is what was on the other side of the spitting out. Not emptiness, appetite, for actual life. Now, the honest ending, because you have earned honesty. You will not arrive at this day and stay. There is no permanent address there. The ego is not slain in books. It regrows nightly, like stubble. You will catch yourself performing next week, boasting next month, deeply offended by someone's tone next year, portrait blazing, courtroom convened. This is not failure. This is the terrain. The masters you would most admire are not people without egos. They are people with short recovery times, caught in minutes instead of decades, fond label instead of flogging. Return, return, return. Spit, in other words, is not a single act. It is a practice, daily, humble, sometimes funny, and it is enough. A person who catches the mask 10 times a day is free 10 times a day. That is more freedom than most people taste in a year. So here is the whole book, small enough to carry. Watch the voice. It is not you. Starve the ghost. Tell no one sometimes. Retire the scoreboard. Compare only with yesterday's you. Demote the manager. Say, I don't know, out loud. Decline the offense. It was about their day. Hold things lightly. You are not your collections. Hear the criticism. Walk to the joint. Go first. Lower the mask 1 inch. Lose the small arguments. Buy freedom with them. Be nobody, on purpose, regularly. It is where the joy was hiding. Let them be wrong about you. Pay the exit fee. Do it badly, witnessed. The middle is survivable. Serve. The lens reverses. Sit in silence. The stars come out. And when you fall, and you will fall, come back. Fondly. That is the entire art. Long ago, this book began with a stranger wearing your name. You know him well now. Her well now. The mask, the manager, the ghost, the collector, the lawyer, the portrait. You are not going to kill them tonight. You are simply no longer confused about who is who. And that, in the end, is what spitting out the false ego actually means. Not becoming someone new. Ceasing to impersonate someone who never existed, so that the one who was always here, underneath, patient, whole, can finally live. Welcome back. Closing the dusty library. The candle is low, and the book is closed. If tonight loosened something in you, do one small thing before sleep. Choose one practice, just one. The unposted kindness, the lost argument, the 10 minutes of silence. Name it. Morning will know what to do. This has been the Dusty Library. The shelves here are full of old voices who set their masks down, and in the nights to come, we will read them together. The forgotten books, the buried wisdom, the lamplight of other centuries. If tonight kept you company, the library door is always open. Come back. The next book is already waiting on the table. Sleep well. And tomorrow, be nobody for a little while. It is where everything begins. Good night.